Huskers' first championship, when was that?
It was from 1970, Bob Devaney.
That is correct. Where did Harry Potter go to school?
Excuse me?
Harry Potter, boy wizard. What was the name of the school? It was a book.
Well, I don't read a lot.
Well, you go to the movies, don't you? They only made like 22 of them.
Oh, I watch a lot of football.
Well, that's the rub, isn't it?
What?
Pretending to be someone that you're not. You learn all the specifics, but you don't learn what everyone else knows. How about a beer?
God, yes.
Oh, here.
My father-in-law's got paper on you, and you haven't even met him yet. He's not a man you want to owe.
You sound like a woman in debt.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
Our mission is to protect people.
Danger is part of the job. You ready? Something is off here.
This is a stupid plan.
Not that stupider. You afraid?
Hell no.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. DC and James Gunn released some new Lanterns trailers, so we will break it all down. There's a whole bunch of new footage here, a bunch of references to placing this in the timeline. There's also a couple of different time periods that the show is going to cover, too. One set in the past with Hal Jordan training John Stewart early in his career when he first becomes a Green Lantern, and then 10 years later, right before the events of the Man of Tomorrow movie, because John Stewart is also going to be in that movie. He's talked about being on set. The wait is over. Congratulations, everybody. You made it. We get episodes in a couple weeks. I've also gotten a lot of requests about Green Lantern ring giveaways because of the classic Flash ring giveaways I did during my Flash episodes. I am totally happy to do Green Lantern ring giveaways. It has just been so crazy the past week with my channel getting hacked and YouTube helping me get it back that I haven't really had time to think about much else beyond Spider-Man stuff. So when we do get closer to Lanterns episodes dropping, I will start doing the Green Lantern ring giveaway, and it'll work just like my Flash ring giveaways back in the day. So if you watch any of those videos, you'll remember how that went. Hopefully HBO and DC do not run out of Lantern rings to sell, because they actually sold out at Comic-Con. During the first big clip, this is set in the past timeline where Hal Jordan is interrogating someone he suspects is an alien in disguise. There's a lot of people in the town that they think are hiding out as aliens. They use that with the Manhunter subplot, not to be confused with Martian Manhunter. When that last trailer came out, so many people were like, oh, they mentioned Martian Manhunter. No, that's not Martian Manhunter. They're talking about the Manhunters from the classic Green Lantern comics, which are a huge deep cut for the lore, especially during the Silver Age. So we'll get into that during the video too, because that might spin up into bigger Blackest Night things down the road. Hal Jordan maybe turning into a version of Parallax. A lot of theories spinning out of what might happen this season, because we're not really sure what's going to happen to Hal Jordan after this series, because James Gunn is using John Stewart as like his main Green Lantern on what will become their new Justice League in the DCU. So what does that mean for Hal Jordan at the end of this series? There was the early theory that because this is an HBO series, they might do the Ned Stark thing to make the Game of Thrones comp and kill him at the end of the season to explain why John Stewart is using his ring later in the series, because they treat it like there's only one person wearing the ring, and John Stewart in the comics has his own completely different ring, like they both have rings at the same time. But on the series, they're treating it like Hal Jordan is training his replacement, and he's talking to Sinestro about this too. Like, oh no, the Lantern Corps wants to get rid of me. They want to replace me with this young guy. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But I love the way that this spins from just classic interrogation into full-on comedy with the Harry Potter references. And he's trying to catch this alien in a trap because the aliens can't possibly know every single thing about human culture. They've just trained him in enough specific information to blend in this remote Midwestern town where, like, not a lot of people are going to question where he comes from. That is until Hal Jordan, space cop, who's encountered many such aliens in the past, clocks him. The first thing he grills him on, the championship in 1970, is a reference to Bob Devaney. That's the Bob they mentioned during this. He was a legendary football coach. In 1970, he coached the University of Nebraska football team to the national championships. The early 1970s are also an important time in Green Lantern comics because that's when they introduced the John Stewart character for the first time, too. And I love the way that Sheriff Carey rolls her eyes when he mentions Harry Potter, like, okay, yeah, everybody knows what Harry Potter is. So based on the timeline that they've explained when this show takes place, like when these scenes take place and when Man of Tomorrow takes place, so according to James Gunn, Man of Tomorrow takes place around 2027 in the DCU. So imagine 10 years prior, because we take place 10 years ago for John Stewart being trained by Hal Jordan in this small town with him investigating the Manhunters. Meaning this interrogation is taking place in 2017. So he is right, Hal Jordan is right. All the Harry Potter films have long since been released. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 was released in 2011, and the book series had been out for even longer than that. So the idea is that it had been such a big thing in mass culture by the events of 2017, it was still a very huge thing. Pretty much anybody on the planet would at least have run into Harry Potter at some point if you didn't know specifically information about it. Like he would have known to say, oh, he goes to that school with the other wizards, even if he didn't remember the Hogwarts name. So it's the idea that whatever alien this guy is, whoever helped put him on Earth to hide him out here, didn't teach him about a lot of pop culture, just specific information that would allow him to blend into the town. And they didn't think that Harry Potter was a really important thing.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Now the big question is which alien species he actually comes from, if he's somebody from the comics or like some super deep cut. I'm guessing he's not a manhunter in disguise because they also set that up in the trailer too, that the idea that they can change into any form, which also a little bit different from the comics, but they want to use this for the paranoia subplot during the series. Everybody wondering if the person they're talking to is actually a manhunter or somebody evil or an alien in disguise, just to give it some of those mystery thriller vibes. In the second clip, it seems like there's been some run-in, and Sheriff Carey is just exasperated. She's not on duty because she's not wearing her uniform, but she's talking to Hal Jordan, and they're just pissed off about something that's happened recently, and he gives her a beer, but then uses his Green Lantern constructs to create a bottle opener for her. Which is also meant to follow up on the idea that he used the Green Lantern construct to create the dollar bill, like very detailed construct to show his skill, like his fine detail with constructs to get the jukebox going again. Also love the way that John Stewart rolls his eyes at this too, just like can't stand him trying to put the Mac down on her. The actual series doesn't say what her last name is, it just says that she's Sheriff Carey and she's a romantic interest for Hal Jordan during the series. But even more important, she says that her father-in-law has paper on him. I'm assuming that's also somebody in the town. I don't know which character it's going to wind up being based on her age. Like she looks like she's in her 40s at some point, so her father would be much, much older. But it means that Hal Jordan is in debt to him for some reason for money. The Green Lantern Corps do not get paid a salary. This is a big thing in the Marvel movies with the Avengers. Like a lot of the Avengers don't get paid. All the people on the Green Lantern Corps do not get a salary from the Guardians of Oa. Guy Gardner is the exception because he's working for the Justice Gang in Maxwell Lord, who runs the team, because he covers all their expenses and pays them a salary because he's a tech billionaire in the DCU. But as a result of that, they're a privatized corporate team, and the reason why their suits look so bad and they're all so bland, because of the kind of designs that somebody in a boardroom committee would come up with. That's why they look so terrible. They're that on purpose. But the way they talked about Hal Jordan in this series interacting with the other characters is that he's a celebrity in the DCU at this point. He's been a Green Lantern for a long time. Like they show the flashbacks to a young John Stewart watching clips of him on TV, giving interviews about being part of the Green Lantern Corps. They show some of his origin too as a test pilot. So the idea is that when they roll into town, even though this is taking place 10 years ago relatively in the DCU, he's a celebrity, so all the people in the town, even though it's like this small Midwestern town that you don't really think that much of, all the people know who he is. So that's why she's a little bit mad, like, okay, we get it, you're a celebrity, everybody loves you, but this is my murder case, I'm the sheriff here, I'm trying to work this out, please don't get in my way. They kind of got into this whole phenomenon of celebrity with like the real big characters, especially the Justice Gang during the first Superman movie, where Guy Gardner is famous. Also, because of their work with the Justice Gang, they have Maxwell Lord doing all this PR for them too. So there's like this big corporate machine behind them. And even though Superman has only been active for about 3 years when the first Superman movie takes place, he, of course, is very, very famous.
Because we are also of the cloth.
Of the cloth?
We get another new scene of Guy Gardner coming to talk to John Stewart in prison for some reason. Not clear why he's in prison, but he looks kind of exasperated with him, and it looks like he's trying to give him that speech about the Guardians sending an army after him. So it's not really clear why this army is going to be sent after him, why the Guardians of Oa would send an army after him, but it might have something to do with what happens to Hal Jordan at the end of this series. My other assumption is that he's also there to recruit him to help out in the events of Superman Man of Tomorrow. Like, that's just a lead into that, because that's the next big movie in the present day of the DCU. I won't count Clayface, because James Gunn said that takes place much earlier in the timeline. So maybe if there's like a post-credit scene teasing Clayface in present day too. But for the most part, the Lantern series is meant to get John Stewart ready for the events of Man of Tomorrow closer to present day in the DCU. So at some point at the end of that series, I expect there to be a Man of Tomorrow kind of teaser moment. Speaking of which, we get that other cool clip of Hal Jordan doing the Green Lantern oath. They also had John Stewart doing it on the news recently too, so this is him actually saying it. Recently, they also talked a little bit more about Sinestro's role on the series with all the scenes that we see in the trailer of him talking to Hal Jordan. So they said that the Guardians of Oa are really worried about Hal Jordan and what he's going to do because he helped lock up Sinestro in the first place when Sinestro rebelled and tried to take over the Green Lantern Corps unsuccessfully. So that's why he's in prison right now. But the actual thing that's worrying the Guardians of Oa is that Hal Jordan keeps going to his prison to talk to him to get advice for him. So they're just worried that something's going to happen and Hal Jordan is probably going to break bad. This is why everybody, especially longtime Green Lantern readers, are like, wait, are they setting him up for a parallax twist? Because that happened in the comics with completely different circumstances, but in the present day of the series, when you see Hal Jordan walking around in his Green Lantern suit, it actually looks kind of faded, like it's getting a little yellowish. There's also the gold in his ring that gives off some yellowish vibes, like, oh, maybe something is creeping, like some fear is creeping in, and there'll be a parallax twist at the end of the series, and that's why Hal Jordan is going to be the main Green Lantern of the new coming Justice League once James Gunn forms that. Maybe they're setting up Hal Jordan to be a bigger villain in the DCU, his villain arc. If you didn't read the Parallax arc, it came long before the Sinestro Corps War and Blackest Night, the War of Light, all that stuff. It's a classic. Check it out. We also got another clip of Laura Linney talking as part of the experience that they did, like an actual activation that they did at Comic-Con where they were training Green Lanterns, because they revealed that she is meant to play a female Guardian of Oa, just disguising herself to look like a human. And they explained that that's for a couple reasons on the show. One, for budgetary reasons, just they don't have to spend a ton of money to animate them because it's really expensive to do that visual effects. But in the context of the series, the way they explain it is that they take forms to make other people feel more comfortable. So if they're evaluating someone from an alien species that looks different to become a Green Lantern, they would just look like that alien species. And a lot of the scenes we see of her in the trailers are her talking to John Stewart, asking him about fear. Do you have fear? Are you afraid? And he basically tells everybody, hell no, I'm not afraid.
You afraid?
Hell no.
That is the basic requirement for becoming a Green Lantern. They also made that comment earlier when people were asking about the difference between Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Like, why is Guy Gardner such a butthole? He doesn't seem like that nice of a guy, even though that's not exactly the case in the comics. He just comes off as a butthole. The really important thing to remember is that you don't have to be a nice guy to become a Green Lantern. You just need to have no fear. That's the only requirement. You can be as mean as you want and still be a Green Lantern. You just need to have no fear. But a lot of the rest of the footage seems like it focuses on John Stewart getting his sea legs, so to speak, and learning to wield the ring, learning to make constructs. There are a couple examples of him doing that in more detailed ways, making more detailed constructs than Hal Jordan, because John Stewart fundamentally is a completely different person. His brain works in a completely different way. He was an architect after he left the military, so he just thinks in a more analytical, more detailed-oriented way than Hal Jordan does. So everybody's constructs reflect their personality as well, too, which is also why you saw Guy Gardner giving everybody the middle finger with his Green Lantern constructs in the first Superman movie. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, or if you have any special requests for my Lanterns videos week to week once episodes do start. But the really big reminder is that episodes are starting the week after the House of the Dragon finale. It's just taking the House of the Dragon slot on Sunday nights, so my episode videos will post after those episodes release. I'm supposed to be going to the premiere, so I should be able to post an early review. I'll do a non-spoilery review of like episode 1 or whatever they do at the actual premiere. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for my other big Lanterns trailer videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.